I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas and a wonderful New Year, and while I have some fun content planned for the next few weeks and months, I want to get this video out of the way early because I get tagged all the time on Twitter about this, and I think now is the right time to talk about it. So it is now January 18th, 2023, and Knights of the Old Republic 2 on Nintendo Switch was released over half a year ago at this point, and when I reviewed the game, I said explicitly at the end that I don't think you should buy it until the restored content mod DLC was released. And I do still believe that. I don't think you should buy KOTOR on Switch until that DLC is out. However, as many people know, that DLC was slated to be released in Q3 2022. And this was the rough estimate from Aspyr as to when they expected to release it. Now, if you're not familiar with the whole Q system, it basically means fiscal years. It's how companies deal with their calendars and stuff like that. And Q3 ended in September. So it has now been 4 months since the DLC was supposed to be released, and not a single word has been mentioned about it. So, what the hell is going on with it? Now, I was privy to some of what was happening with the DLC, and that's why I kind of held off making any videos about it, because I understood that there were some implications involving it. I thought I'd give Aspyr the benefit of the doubt because the company was in turmoil, a lot of the employees were struggling, and from what I was aware of at the time, this wasn't something that Aspyr could fully control. However, I do want to say that I do think the way Aspyr has gone about this has been pretty terrible. If you follow me on Twitter at all, it's kind of where I've spoken about this issue the most, and I have been pretty clear in saying that Aspyr going radio silent on the situation has been the wrong thing to do, but I do understand why they may have done it. Now, if you haven't been fully up to date with what's going on at Aspyr, well, the company have kind of been in a bit of turmoil. After the fiasco with the KOTOR remake, Aspyr have been on a very bad downward spiral. I mean, they have lost nearly a quarter of their staff. They were around 200 people at the company at their peak while they were developing the remake, and now they're under 150. Things really haven't been good, and a lot of this has been pretty public. And one thing that they did that made this entire situation even worse was they gutted their entire community team. The community manager was let go kind of abruptly. I actually felt really bad for him. The rest of the community team were let go too. And if you're wondering why they're not as, active on Twitter or in their Discord channels, it's because they don't have a community team anymore. In fact, there literally isn't a single member of Aspyr that is consistent and present in the Discord server, and I mean the official Discord server. It's currently being held together basically by moderators. So yeah, things haven't been going too well over there. So now you're kind of aware what's going on, things aren't going too well. You would think that they would try to preserve their reputation amongst the fans, because it's something that was really good about Aspyr. They had a good relationship with fans, they interacted with fans very often, I had a good relationship with them, and I would have thought they would have been open and transparent about the things that are coming, such as the KOTOR 2 DLC, which is important to a lot of people. But they have gone the opposite way, and they have gone utterly radio silent. So I'm going to try and shine some light on what I was told in regards to the KOTOR 2 DLC. And whether you want to believe me or not, as always, is totally down to you. So back in late September, when the DLC was supposed to be released, I was told by my source at Aspyr that the DLC was totally ready. Like, it was in a playable state, it could be released immediately, but it was kind of on a standby mode, and they told me that they were struggling with some kind of legal implications with Disney and Lucasfilm. Now, they weren't privy to what those legal implications were, because they weren't part of the legal team, I guess, but this is what was holding the release of the DLC back. They proceeded to keep me up to date when things were changing at the company in regards to KOTOR especially, and in around mid-October they let me know that the color-coded status of the project had moved from red, which means basically on standby, to amber, which meant the issues with the legality were improving and things were moving in the right direction. Now, I assumed at this point that legal issues probably meant they couldn't actually say anything about it, which is why they were silent on the topic, But I thought, now it's kind of moved into amber, they're probably going to release it soon, so I wasn't too worried about it. But you know, a month and a half went by and still nothing changed. They didn't say anything about it. And then I got an update right at the beginning of December or so that more legal implications came up regarding the DLC, and it basically had been moved back to red. Now, it surprises me that they did have legal implications because they had already announced it. They had announced that they were working with the team that made the restored content mod to some extent, and they were asking for advice, and they were crediting them for their work. And to my knowledge, even the guys that made the restored content mod who helped Aspyr were also left in the dark. So at this point, pretty much nobody knew what was going on, apart from the legal teams at Aspyr and Lucasfilm, I guess. Now recently, a member of the Aspyr Discord server said that they reached out to Limited Run. Now Limited Run are the company that do the physical editions of older games like this. They even do collector's editions. And supposedly, he was told that the DLC was slated to be released in Q2 2023, and this time frame spans from April all the way to June. Now, if I remember rightly, Limited Run are owned by Aspyr or Embracer, one of the two, so they're very heavily connected, but I can't verify what he's saying is a fact, so it's definitely something you should take with a grain of salt, but this is potentially the only positive update we've had in regards to the KOTOR 2 DLC since the game's announcement. Now, as for the question of what the legal issue actually is, I asked my source and they don't know, so I don't have a legitimate answer for you guys. However, there is one thing that I do know in regards to how Lucasfilm works with their IP. So, when it comes to their IP, especially Star Wars, everything has to be done months in advance because Lucasfilm has to approve every single little detail. Which means that a company working with the Star Wars IP basically has to plan everything majorly in advance in terms of their day-to-day plans and day-to-day workings. So let's say they plan to do something specific in June, it has to be approved as early as possible so they don't get severely put behind by the whole approval process. This is potentially one reason why things are taking so long. It could be approval, but that is entirely hypothetical based on how I know Lucasfilm works with their partners. And as for the actual issue, my hypothesis on this is because it's a fan mod. You have to remember that a lot of what is in the restored content mod was made by fans. A lot of it was stuff that was already in the code of KOTOR 2, but there was also a lot of stuff that was generally made and added back into the game by them. Now, I'm not a lawyer and I don't understand legal systems, but something tells me that might cause an issue between who owns it. Now, yes, I did give Aspyr the benefit of the doubt a few months ago, and, you know, perhaps the situation isn't entirely their fault, but I do want to make it very clear that I think the lack of communication from the company at this point is absurd. They have burned so many bridges with fans, and you can see all that on their social media channels. The outrage and the anger is just building and building and building. Now, this could have been rectified with one simple statement saying that the DLC has been delayed, but instead they have gone totally radio silent and they're pretending like nothing is happening. And I think it is terrible what Aspyr are doing. I think the fans deserve better. But I don't know if things have improved at Aspyr at all. I myself have been in the dark about the company since about mid-December, so, you know, we can only hope. But with that said, hopefully Limited Run are truthful in what they say that the DLC is slated for Q2 2023, so maybe we could hear more about it in the coming months, but honestly at this point, at this rate of decline that Aspyr seems to be going through, anything really is possible. I myself am not getting my hopes up for anything, I've just kind of forgotten about it, and if it releases, it releases. So to sum it up, the TLDR is, the game was delayed internally because of legal issues with Lucasfilm and Disney. They seem to have made some good progress in October, then this seemed to have got stunted and they went back to square one and they were having legal issues again. Nothing seems to have changed since then, and now the DLC is slated to be released in Q2 2023, which could be anywhere between April and June. Now, as for the Knights of the Old Republic remake, I am going to talk about that in another video. There were some things that I was told about the game that I haven't spoken about yet, and there is also a small update for the remake in regards to the new studio working on it, and I am a little bit concerned. But like I said, that is another topic for another video. Anyway, I really do appreciate you guys watching. Don't forget to share this video with your friends who are perhaps looking forward to the KOTOR 2 DLC as well, and hit the like button so maybe this video can be picked up in the YouTube algorithm and KOTOR fans can kind of get an understanding of what's going on to my knowledge. If you want to be kept up to date with everything Knights of the Old Republic, perhaps consider hitting the subscribe button to join the biggest growing Knights of the Old Republic community on YouTube, and I'll see you guys in the next video. But until then, may the Force be with you. Always.